Hello, how are you? A lot of people have been telling me that they're in the process of losing weight, trying to live a healthier life, that they've been trying to do everything right, exercise, diet, eating more balanced meals, but they just can't get rid of that stubborn belly that insists on sticking out. There's a mistake that many people make without realizing it. In fact, they think it's healthy, but it could actually be making the belly issue worse. So today I'm going to talk about something that's really important for you to pay attention to in your daily life. You're going to love it. Stick around until the end. You won't want to miss this. Before we start, I want to ask you, what bothers you the most? Is it a bloated belly, a protruding stomach, that abdominal fat, or is it fat more on your legs or hips? Is there a specific area where you tend to accumulate more fat on your body? Which area is it? Write it for me down here in the comments. I'd love to see your response. Go ahead and like the video. That really helps me out here on the channel. And share this video with anyone you think is also struggling, trying to do everything right but still can't lose belly fat. Why does that happen? There are several related issues, but today I wanted to bring you something that happens to many people related to the concept we call metabolic inflexibility. A lot of people don't know this, but our bodies can temporarily lose or greatly reduce the ability to switch between burning and storing energy or fat at specific times of the day, especially as we get older. This failure usually tends to happen more at night, which should be the most efficient time for us to use fat as fuel. And it may be related to something wrong we do during this nighttime period that harms the secretion of GH, the growth hormone. Patricia, GH, growth hormone. I'm not a child, I'm not a teenager, so why should I worry about GH? This GH hormone is secreted at night and it preserves muscles and mobilizes body fat, but it can only be secreted as it should when we have a favorable metabolic environment. I'm going to explain this to you now. A very interesting detail is that chronobiology studies have already determined that our metabolism does not function the same throughout the day. At night, we naturally have a lower tolerance to glucose. The same meal you eat during the day can have a much greater impact if consumed at night in terms of insulin secretion and sensitivity. This is already an important point. The second point is that many people think that skipping dinner is a healthier option. So these people stop eating foods like meat, chicken, fish, rice, and other more complete meals, and start choosing things like yogurt or sandwiches instead, believing they're lighter, easier to digest, and more practical. But depending on how you put together this snack, which would be your dinner, it can actually end up being much heavier metabolically for your liver, your pancreas, your entire endocrine system than a balanced dinner. I'll tell you more about this. So sometimes you have yogurt with banana, honey, and oats at night instead of having dinner. And then this will cause an insulin spike for you. And this elevated insulin counteracts our GH. It interrupts fat burning, and it's an anabolic hormone. So our body starts trying to deal with this increased glucose, which will be harder to control at night, right? I just mentioned that there is this variation in the body's ability to respond to stimuli depending on the time of day, and that's physiological. And then you'll have a lower secretion of your GH, and this will actually impair your fat burning at night even when you're not doing physical activity. This is truly biological, physiological. It's complicated because this pattern of increased visceral fat is very problematic since it produces more cortisol and raises inflammatory markers in our body. We know that abdominal fat is a risk factor for cardiovascular diseases, type 2 diabetes, fatty liver, so it's important that we try to reduce this belly fat, yes, not just for aesthetic reasons. So what happens with many people? They eat a lot of foods rich in glucose at night, not necessarily sugar, but for example, a white bread with cheese and then drink an orange juice. The person thinks that's healthier than eating a proper dinner. And then because of that, they secrete a lot of insulin. Their sleep gets worse, stress increases, cortisol goes up, insulin sensitivity decreases, GH secretion drops. So it's a snowball effect that starts with a poor food choice and can trigger a cascade of bad metabolic and physiological consequences for you. So how can we come up with an action plan to try to improve this? Because many people really do have some difficulty with the timing, the amount, or the quality of this last meal, what I call dinner. But for you, it might be a snack. It doesn't matter, right? Regardless of what it is. Ideally, you should try to have this meal 2 or 3 hours before going to bed, even if it's a light meal. That's because it allows your body's insulin to reach its postprandial peak and then return to a more basal level, so you don't have high insulin levels at bedtime, when you should actually be having a peak in GH. This is already an important point. So, the timing of your meal, 2 to 3 hours before bedtime, will help you in this regard. Second is the composition of your plate. Of course, I'm not telling you to replace your snack with a big plate of pasta or a big plate of mashed potatoes. French fries are out of the question, But the idea is for you to consume a more slowly absorbed carbohydrate, if that's the case, or even fewer carbohydrates at this time, and focus on proteins, healthy fats, and fiber. So you don't necessarily need to have a light snack. If you make a grilled steak, grilled fish, or a really tasty grilled or roasted chicken, well seasoned in a marinade, or sauteed in the pan, really delicious, it doesn't have to be bad food, not at all. With plenty of vegetables, with a well-seasoned, tasty salad, you can add some lentils, a bit of chickpeas, you can add any legume you like, or a bit of chia, flaxseed, something that helps lower the glycemic index even more. That will be much more interesting for you, without a doubt, than having yogurt with banana, with honey, with oats or cereal, whatever it may be, which is theoretically lighter. The order will also help you a lot. There's an entire video talking about this, but ideally we should always start with the fiber, with the salad, with the vegetables. Then we should try to eat more of the protein part of the plate, and lastly, the part related to carbohydrates. This gives the fiber time to enter our digestive tract, start triggering even the secretion of GLP-1, improve abdominal, or rather gastric distension, increase the satiety signal, and actually improve the local metabolic process to make it easier to digest and absorb those carbs. Also, be careful with another mistake that many people make, which is consuming alcoholic beverages at this time. Alcohol affects GH secretion, interferes with deep sleep, impacts cortisol, and also influences our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. So even though many people say, I'm going to drink alcohol at night, wine, beer, a little whiskey to relax because I want to sleep better. Maybe at first you'll feel relaxed and fall asleep. But you'll notice that you'll wake up more often to pee because your body wants to eliminate these alcohol toxins. There's also the liquid volume itself that you consumed. There's the issue of hormonal modulation, which changes, and there's also the matter of liver overload. So really, alcohol at night, if you have trouble burning belly fat, it's not recommended. Tell me down below then what your usual dinner is like. Do you have a full dinner or just a snack? How many hours before going to bed do you have your meal? Did you already know that this could impact your belly fat? I would love to see your comment. Go ahead and like the video because that really helps me, and share it with those who will enjoy it and those who need it. Let's work together to expand this chain of kindness. That's what I want here with the channel. See you next time. Bye.